Hello, I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to more Apex news. Going to cover the results of this past weekend's event, that being the bigger one of Code Red. Actually a 25k tournament. There was also another one known as D Live, but I can only cover so many events out there. And also, before we break down results of the bigger event with some great teams on screen for all of you, I did go outside this weekend. I got too much sun. I even sunburned my eyelids, so please don't make fun of me. But let's break down results. Of course, there was no surprise though. It was actually Mendo, of all people, to join the strongest trio already who was going to be here, that being King Richard and Dizzy, and boy did they ever, spoiler alert, yes, they won their third title together, that being Richard and Dizzy in a row. So pretty crazy, and they did so in dominant fashion. There was a bit of drama around the event itself, but they did so in very dominant fashion. Again, the average of many of their games of the 4 series they did play, the average, besides the xQc matchup, their closest one of the weekend, just 8 points separates those two teams. Every other game, 30 to 40 point differences. In this format, wins were 8 points, kills were 1 point. Another revamped format out there. 30 to 40 points is a huge difference. These guys ran the tables, and besides that, another fun fact for all of you, they won every single individual game they played during the event. Only team to do so, and it was just kind of crazy to watch these guys. They were the favorite team going into this. Maybe, of course, Dr. Disrespect, Vis, and Crafty, their team was also a pretty big favorite as well, and we'll talk about them in a second here. The only bit of drama, though, was actually around xQc, who had this clip come out.
Wait, why do we face losers of 8? What? It should be a... What? Oh, dude, I hate this randomized dog. The winner of the hardest matchup should go against the easier matchup. That's just not how it is.
And his argument kind of goes, well, there's two sides to this story. First of which, I think if you guys got confused, he wanted a seeding system for this tournament. It's not really clarified. There was not a seeding system, but it might have been randomized, or it might have been based off prior points scored. So if you guys did realize in the upper bracket, it was xQc's team, the closest team to play against Mendo, Dizzy, and Richard all tournament long. They lost that matchup though. They go to the lower bracket and they face off against Summit and Josh's team. Summit, Josh, and Chappie actually making up that trio. They had just come off a victory, beating arguably the number 2 seed in the entire event, that being Vis, Dr. Disrespect, and Crafty, a pretty big upset. So it was actually xQc's trio having to face off against the heavier opponent, the better opponent of that winner's matchup, instead of facing off against Trainwreck's trio, who just beat the League of Legends trio, arguably a weaker matchup. So his argument here was the fact they come off a loss of losing to the number 1 seeded team in the upper bracket, and they had to face the better opponent in the lower bracket who had just beat the number 2 seeded team if there were seeds in the event. Now, I could argue as well, it was actually Shorty's team who had scored more points before that lower bracket matchup. It was Shorty's team who scored 88 and 81 points. xQc's team, they actually scored 77 and 89 points. You do the math, just by a few points, xQc's team was actually short to Shorty's team, and therefore Shorty's team got priority, and they got to face off against the weaker team in that lower bracket matchup. Did that make sense? So in shorter terms, xQc's team had to face off against the tougher matchup in the lower bracket after losing to the better team in the upper bracket, as compared to Shorty's team, who got the easier matchup after losing to the easier team in the upper bracket. This would not have happened if there were seeds. If there were seeds and xQc's team would have lost to the number 1 seed team of Dizzy, Richard, and Mendo, they would not have had that hard matchup in the lower bracket. So it definitely, you can see it for both ways, because Shorty's team also did score more points in those first 2 matchups, and therefore they could have gotten priority to have the easier matchup in the lower bracket. Either way though, that was the only drama all matchup long. It was actually Josh, Summit alongside Chappie. They ran the tables through the lower bracket, beating that number 1 team, number 2 team arguably, in Vis, Crafty, and Dr. Disrespect in a pretty big upset. They go through the grand finals, guys, and the only team to actually play closely against Mendo, Richard, and Dizzy was not Josh, Summit, and Chappie. It was xQc's trio. The grand finals, guys, was not close whatsoever. 40 points separate those two teams, and again, you really can't argue too much, right? Josh, Summit, and Chappie did a great job making the grand finals, making it at least entertaining their lower bracket run, but no team played these guys close besides xQc and Squad. And either way, besides that, running the tables, it will be, once again, for the 3rd title in a row, Dizzy, Mendo, Richard taking it here in the 25k tournament as well, along with it, that being Code Red. I cannot wait to break down the next event for all of you, but nothing too spectacular. Alongside that, though, a few other hints out there, some clips. It was actually Rogue's team who did see hints of playing against cheaters, and that's obviously a pretty big issue in a tournament format where you only have a set amount of matches to actually earn points. So if you play against cheaters who kill you, it can really vastly affect your scoreline. Here's that clip.
I think they might
instantly.
I don't
Wow.
want to say they all have cheats because like they
That was very tough.
play with usually one cheater, but they all might
Yeah.
have cheats.
Honestly, that did not look great. I mean, you're seeing the spray downs coming out. It was instant. Those tags. I'm not too sure what they were using. I think they were using like the Hemlock
Possibly.
or the Prowler.
Possibly.
Yeah. All I know is a heavy gun and like a lot of damage coming across very consistently, and you don't really see that with.
So we're just going to hope for improvements in that in the future. It's almost tough to avoid that kind of thing as we, of course, Apex grows as a game. We'll kind of ironically talk about that in a few seconds here. We're going to find more cheaters in the game itself. I don't think it affected scorelines too much, but it's always a terrible thing to see when a team gets eliminated by cheaters, and it's pretty darn obvious. Now, speaking of growth of the game itself, guys, Apex Legends victorious today because just 1 month. Actually, technically, because February is a short month, less than 1 month since the game's launch, and since we started covering it, we have now broken 50 million players. That is a lot of people out there, and along with that, kind of the growth timeline, if you guys have not been following this, within 3 days of the game's official launch last month on the 4th, they break 10 million players. Within 1 week, they break 25 million, and now within 1 month, technically less than 1 month, they break 50 million players. An incredible goal, an incredible, sort of great hope for the future of this game, and I cannot wait as we still approach the first season's battle pass, which I thought was going to be last Friday. That is my apology, guys. Leaks out there have said otherwise, but hopefully sometime soon. I think it would be a great time to release this season 1 battle pass, and when they do, we will of course break it down for all of you, which I'm sure will be very much worth it. But as always, my name is Jake. Hope you guys all enjoy Apex news. Until next time, I'll see you then.